Welcome back to Humbled Highs, episode 5, Romance and Risks, Love in the Shadows. I hope you guys have been enjoying these stories. If you will, do me a favor, share this with your friends, with your family, on your social medias. Take 1 minute out of your time and post it on your stories. This gets the word out. This is good for the podcast, and it's good for God's family. It builds God's family. God has done so much in my life, and I just want to share the stories, these crazy stories I've been through. And this story is all about me and my wife, Amber. I told you in another episode we had this chance encounter, and I'll go ahead and tell you again. So I'm a drug dealer, obviously. In the middle of a work day, I'm out doing some errands. And I go to the local Walmart in Madison. This is one of those green Walmarts, kind of a smaller one. And I've got my son with me. And we're just walking through the aisles. And boom, I see this girl. I'd seen her years before at the Civic Center. She was married at the time. And when I saw her this time, passing through the aisles, I immediately recognized her because I had taken this mental recording of her years before, and I don't ever forget a face, especially a face that beautiful. And when I passed by her real close in one of the aisles, I looked at the ring finger and I saw it was empty. And like I said, another episode, I was never the kind of guy to just approach a woman, but I wasn't going to let this chance encounter go by wasteful. So I walked up to her and I said, "I know you don't know me, but I know you." Not the best pickup line, but after she asked me how old I was and we had some small talk, she later gave me her phone number. And this time I handed her my phone. I made sure, and I texted her on the spot just to make sure it wasn't a fake number that she gave me, but it was real. And immediately I went home. I was super excited, and you know, this is the most beautiful girl I've ever dated, and I hope other girls on here know that. This is the most beautiful, the best girl I've ever dated in my life. So I got the digits, and I started working my craft. You know, I'm a persistent guy. I think persistence always works. If you know the story of the persistent widow in the Bible, persistence works. And I kept trying to get close to her. She worked really close at the Centennial Hospital in Madison, or she was a pharmacy tech there. And I started trying to get her to go out with me. And eventually she said yes. Okay. And this is like early 2014 or 2013 actually. And so I started planning this date. And I'm a big planner. And so I planned this beautiful evening out. And she lived in Gallatin, which was, I don't know, like a half an hour from my house at the time. And comes date night. She accepted to go on this date with me, and I planned it all out. And so I had all my business, all the drug deals squared away. There weren't going to be nobody calling me to interrupt the situation. She did not know who I was. Now, I've said before, girls usually get girls to vouch for them. You know, if they don't know you, they're gonna ask friends about you. They're gonna Facebook and look around and see who you know. And she knew somebody that we both knew that was mutual. And so she called her and asked about me. And this girl apparently, I don't know, for some reason, she gave me some good numbers. So said, yeah, he's, I guess, dateable material. I don't know, but I got the date. Thankfully, we had some mutual friends. So anyway, this night I go and pick her up, and I got 3 different spots we're going to go to in Nashville. And I'm driving to pick her up, and my son calls me, because like my son lived with me. He calls me and he says, "Hey, P is here, and he's here to get some money." P was my finance guy. I owed him money. I paid him, at least once or twice a month. And I was not expecting. This guy lived in Colorado, and he just showed up at my house. So P is at my house. My son's like, you got to come back. I'm like, man, I got this super date planned. Then with this beautiful girl, I can't have anything go wrong. For a planning type A person, random things that come up, they just don't fit in the plan, if you know what I'm saying. So, but I also didn't have a choice in the matter. I owed this guy money. He wasn't my boss, but, it was like the bank called you and said, hey, your rent's due. Like if you don't pay, you got to get out type of situation. So I picked Amber up and I said, hey, I've got this beautiful date planned, but we got to go back to my house first. And she's like, for what? I was like, there's this guy there and I owe him some money. And she's like, okay. So we get back to my house in Madison, and this is the first time she's met my son. So boom, here's a 15-year-old. And that's a little bit of a shocker because Amber didn't have any kids. And here's P. And if you remember from the other episode, P kind of looks like a homeless guy. Disheveled hair, smells like garlic. No lie, he kept garlic in his pocket. And, and he doesn't know how to communicate. And we're all dressed up fancy. I'm poloed down to the socks, button-up shirt, all creases, look sharp. She looks fine, and I'm like, don't talk to him, don't talk to her type thing to P. I'm like, just leave this girl alone. And I told Amber, I was like, we need to just count up a little bit of money to give to him. And I said, can you help me count up this money? She's like, okay. So I went back to the master bedroom, grabbed a stack of money, and I walked out with it, and I saw Amber's face just look like a bus was about to hit a dog. She was like, what? This stack of money was probably 10 inches tall. And casually, I just, I explained to her to try to get on the date fast. I said, we just need to count out just 30 grand for him real quick. She's like, what? And I said, this is how you're going to do it. We're going to put them in stacks of 1,000. Just make sure you count them correctly. And so we counted out 30 G's for P. And then I sent him on his way. And I said, okay, you ready to go to Nashville? And she said, yeah. And man, I didn't know what to think. I wasn't trying to impress her with that. I was trying to just take her on a nice date. But anyway, we got to Nashville, and I had it all planned out. One of my favorite spots is Aladdin's Hookah Lounge in Nashville. It's a nice, real chill spot. You can get a hookah with some flavored tobacco and, some Turkish coffee. And we did that. It went really smooth. Then we went to Maggiano's restaurant, a nice Italian restaurant in Nashville. Delicious, delicious Italian food. Then I took her up to this place called Love Circle in Nashville. It's over on the West End. And it's this circular drive that goes up to a real high spot that overlooks Nashville. And took her up there, and I'm like, look, this is the highest spot in Nashville. And she was just blown away. And that was our perfect first date. But the crazy thing is I didn't know how she was going to take the fact that, why has this guy got a stack of money 10 inches tall just walking out casually? This is not a casual situation. I'm thinking as I dropped her off back home in Gallatin, is this going to be our last date? Because, that can be kind of unnerving to somebody. Understandable, right? He's obviously into something. But our first date was in August of 2013, and we had started talking in July. So, I had been working my way up just to get on this first date. she didn't really want to date me for a while. She actually tried to work something else out. It didn't work out. And so we started seeing each other again later on towards the end of 2013. 2014, February, I took her to St. Thomas for a week. Took her with Chris, my main customer, and my son, and we spent a week there, and we balled out. And it was on the tarmac, on the flight back home to Nashville, is when I realized, like, this is a girl I want to spend the rest of my life with. And I really started to, God really started working on me of, this is going to be your life, okay? You're either going to be a drug dealer or you're going to be with her. And, I pretty much made up my mind on the tarmac in the plane in St. Thomas. I'm going to make a change in my life. I know it was God working on me, but the catalyst, the main thing that changed me was Amber. Not just her beauty, but her attitude about that money wasn't impressing her, that the lifestyle I was living was not impressing her. It was my personality and our chemistry that attracted her to me. Now in March of 2014, just a month after we got back to St. Thomas, I told her that I loved her, and I got crickets. But y'all never expect to hear I love you back. When you tell somebody you love them, your declaration of love doesn't equate to them saying that they love you back. It's your declaration. I told her. Now it was probably 3 weeks later. Now it was actually March 20th, 2014, that she didn't tell me. She wrote it in colorful chalk outside of her apartment on the sidewalk, I love you. And it was very shortly after that my driver got busted in Nebraska, after I had prayed for this thing to be over with, that I left the game. And so we had both declared our love for each other in March 2014. And she is the main reason that I got out of the game. If it wasn't for her, I know I'd be in prison right now. I know I'd be in there. And I mean, I'd only be 10 years into a 25-year federal sentence. That's crazy to think about. But there's this song I want you guys to look up when you're done with this, if you'll do me that. It's called Right Down the Line by Jerry Rafferty. And it's like I could have wrote that song myself. Every time I hear it, it chokes me up, because she's the one. She's the one that brought me into the light. And what I mean by that is, now I know this is not the right thing to do, but I moved out of Madison and we got a house together with my son in Gallatin. And that was in 2015. And well, maybe it was actually in late 2014. But soon after we shacked up together, which I'm just going to tell you, that's not Christian to do. You get married and then you live together. It's not, the woman is not a leased car. You don't try it out before you buy it. You buy it. And let me park the car right there and just tell you, with relationships, this is my opinion. This is how I sum it up. You got three different, and I'm going to do a car analogy, okay? The one night stands is like going to Hertz Rent a Car. You go there, you rent it for the day, you drive it, you drive the wheels off of it, and then you bring it back, and you've got no attachment to that car. You might be thinking about it later on, like, I really like driving that Benz. That was really nice. But, you want to drive something new. every other time you go to the Hertz rent-a-car, right? Sometimes you may get stuck with a minivan, but sometimes you might get the Maserati if you pay a little bit extra. You feel me? Okay, and then you got the lease, right? This is compared to like a 2-3 year relationship where you're not fully committed, but you think you're committed. These are the move-in relationships that you've got. You know, I'm not committed enough to finance this car, but I'm committed enough to pay something for it. We'll shack up together. We'll live together. We'll play like we're married, but if anything goes wrong, I can just take this car back. You know, it's maintenance free. You know, that's not a commitment. When you go to the car dealership and you get that 7-year term and you have committed to buying this car, and you're thinking after I finish paying it off, I'm just going to keep this car until the wheels fall off. I'm just going to keep it. That's marriage. That's commitment, you know, and I just think, like, if you're dating somebody and you really feel like you love that person and you think the next step is to move in together, that's like a lease. You're still not truly committed to that person. Marriage is that full commitment. Now, I say this, I'm the pot calling the kettle black here because I moved in with Amber in this house, but that was not the godly step to take. The godly step to take is to make the commitment first, and the commitment follows the honor that God gives you. That's just my best advice, you know, and we were married April 2nd, the day after April Fool's, and I always use that as a joke, like, today's our anniversary. She'd be like, what? April Fool's? You know, it's the next day. I'm the one that remembers all these dates, these specific dates of when I told her I loved her, when she told me she loved me, the day we started dating, the month we started talking. That's because this is serious relationship to me. You know, every other thing, it was just a 1-day rental or a lease deal, 2 years, you know. And I really had to figure out myself and get to a point where I felt like I didn't need somebody in my life. And once I got to that point, before Amber, I went through about 2 years of counseling where I was going twice a week, figuring out my issues, my dad issues, and all that stuff. Y'all need to do that because, you know, most of your relationships you're in are honestly just codependent relationships. You're just trying to get this other person to fulfill your needs, and that is not love. Love is what you can do for the other person. It's not what they can do for you. That's why people think they're in love, but they're actually infatuated. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, just wait a year. And then that infatuation wears off and the warts start to show up, and you can see that the hair in the weird places and the wrinkles and the fact that they're a selfish person or you're the selfish person. So marriage doesn't create problems. Marriage reveals problems. Your problems you need to fix. So if you keep going from relationship to relationship, figuring out, I just keep finding the wrong person. No, you are the wrong person. You need to fix your issues first and then commit to give something to the other person. It's not about what you can get. Okay, that's what's wrong with relationships. Once I got myself counseled up, I finally got to a place in my life where I was like, I don't need to be in a relationship anymore. And that's the perfect spot to find somebody, because if you don't need somebody, that's when you can give something to somebody, right? So Amber and I, before we got married, we're living together, obviously in air quotes sin, which means not perfection. And she told me, she's like, I want to start going to church. I want to get involved at church. I'm like, you know, I'd already dedicated myself to God, but I wasn't going to church. And I didn't think I needed to go to church, but I would do anything for her. If she said, we need to go to a cult, I'd said probably, yeah, okay, which Kool-Aid do you want me to drink? But she brought me to a really good church. This church Long Hollow Baptist Church in Gallatin. And man, I got there, and there's this thing that happens when you get among healthy other believers of Christ is called community. And you get recharged, and you get refreshed, and you get armed and ready to go for the next week. See, Sunday's the first day of the week. It's not the last day of the week. It gets you ready for the whole week. And I found community, and I found purpose going there, and I was fed spiritually when I went there. And this girl, she brought me into the light, like that song by Jerry Rafferty, Right Down the Line. And so I not only owe her my freedom, I owe her my dedication and faith to God. I went all in, and I started doing ministry through that church with students, trying to keep students from doing the stupid things that I did. And, I just got addicted to doing ministry. I mean, I absolutely love serving people. You can't serve God directly. You can only serve God by serving other people. And I just love to do that. It fills me with purpose. Going to work, paying bills, going out to eat, all that stuff is fine and good. But what good are you doing in the kingdom of God? What crowns are you going to offer up to God when you meet him in eternity if you have done nothing with your faith? So that's what the ministry that I did, thankfully, because my wife brought me to that church. My wife and I are about to hit our 7th year, and each year it just keeps getting better because marriage has revealed my problems, and it's helped me with my selfishness. It's helped me with dedicating myself to somebody. And in so many ways, marriage just doesn't allow you a way. If you're committed to it, I view my marriage like a submarine. We're 30,000 leagues under the sea, and the only way out is implosion. I mean, I will not get out of this marriage. The only way the marriage is going to end, and Amber will tell me, is if I cheat on her. And she's already, she's like, I ain't going to be the one to cheat. I'm like, I believe you. So if it ends, it'd be because of me. But I've already committed my life to her, and cheating is the last thing I would ever do. And so I just want to tell you from this scripture verse, Proverbs 18:22, he who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord. And favor is God shining his face on you. It's saying, good job, my good and faithful servant. It's when you serve your wife, that's the closest thing you can do to serving God, because that person, they ain't going to go away. They're going to remember if you treat them badly. And love keeps no record of wrong, so it teaches you how to forgive, how to be patient, how to be kind, how to be sacrificial. And it takes a process. And that's what marriage is really, really good for, is that process of learning not to be selfish, because that's our preset. That's how we're born, is selfish. And we're to spend this time on earth learning how to be unselfish, how to be like the least selfish person that ever walked this planet, as Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior. So I hope you guys like this episode. This is dedicated to my wife. In the next episode, we're going to get into something crazy. I'm going to tell you probably about how I beat up one of my ex-girlfriend's fathers when I was a kingpin. Crazy story. So do me a favor. Again, follow, like, share this, and let's keep this message rolling. I love you guys. God loves you.